Good morning, everybody. On this lovely Sunday morning. We have a little bit of clouds in Paris, but at least it's not raining. So we're happy about that. Kate's really happy about that. Hi, Angela. We were just talking, they switched around some statues on us, which is pretty amazing because they were some pretty hefty statues. So we were just chatting right before this. And then also we were wishing that we had smell-o-vision on Zoom because Katie was saying that the lilacs are just absolutely amazing right now. So I have a lilac bush in my bush, whatever you call it, in my backyard. And it's starting to have little blossoms on it. I'm so excited. Good morning, Dawn and Carol and Martha. Good morning, everybody. And I see Cheryl, of course. Cheryl's always one of I only see a few of your little pictures, and Cheryl always gets right up there at the top. Well, we'll give everybody a minute or two to get in here. And then we'll, hi, Karen, and then we will get started. But has anybody, hi, Coretta, has anybody been to the Jardin des Plantes? It's kind of one of those places. I know, I'm sure Cheryl has, but it's kind of one of those, it's not exactly, it's a little tiny bit out of the way. It's not really in, it's not the Luxembourg or the Tuileries, but it's a really beautiful garden. And it has all these amazing buildings on it and museums and some really cool things in here. There was a couple years ago in spring, I stayed actually not too far, and I walked, I think it was my first full day in Paris. I woke up and I stopped and got a croissant, and then I walked over here at the garden, and then all the peonies, they have a peony garden, and there was just like just hundreds of these great big huge pink peonies, like fully bloomed. Oh, it was gorgeous. I was like, do I have some scissors? Is anybody watching? I think they would probably notice you walking out with stuff, but I would never do that. I'd be terrified. It's a really great place. And we just have a few more people we're going to let in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. We're actually really close to the Seine. The Seine is just basically straight ahead from where we see this image right here. Also, just a reminder, you want to make sure you pin Kate's feed. She's the one that has the image, our wonderful photographer. But you want to, in the top right-hand corner, I always say column, top right-hand corner, there's a little blue bubble. You want to just click on that and hit pin. If you're on an iPhone or an iPad, you can just double click her image. But that way you get to see Paris and you get to still hear all the history. But you don't want, we're here to see Paris. So, I could sit here and make faces and do, hand puppets, but where we want to see Paris is more what we want to see. So make sure you click on hers. I always turn my camera off. So if all of a sudden you get back to just my black screen with my name, make sure you find Kate. So Kate is our wonderful photographer and all of our wonderful little walks. So I guess we go ahead and get started. This monument I love because I love this sculptor and the statue that he created that a lot of people would know right there. Do you recognize it? This is Emmanuel Freme. This is a monument made by Henri Léon Grébert, and he is seen working on a statue that is actually here in the garden as well. It's located in front of the Galerie de Paléontologie et d'Anatomie, and he is just right here. This is a really cool building that was once a carriage company location, and in 1806 it opened to the public. Inside you'll find these huge skeletons of whales and dinosaurs, and you could go to these upper floors that have these beautiful wrought iron railings and look down onto the skeletons as well. It's kind of people always call it the building of the whales. Because it just, there's these huge, gray whales and just huge, huge skeletons. It's really cool. It's all of the museums in the park are all dedicated to the natural world and animals and plants and gems. And it might be one of those things where you might think you don't really want to go see it, but they are really fascinating, and even just the buildings alone are worth it to see. But Emmanuel, of course, he's standing here. He did the Jeanne d'Arc statue that's in Paris, just really close to the Louvre. There happens to actually be a matching twin here in Portland. And I think there's actually one also in St. Louis. I think there's a couple of them, but they are made from the same cast. And there's a few of them around the world, which is kind of fun to find. But he was an amazing sculptor that did a lot with animals, and we hopefully will see this sculpture that he did. That you can see it on the little pedestal, but it sounds like they moved some things around. So since I was there last, so we'll see what we could find. But it's a gray day, but we're very happy. It's not raining. Yesterday, I did a private walk for the Alliance Francaise of Omaha, and it was pouring down rain during the whole walk. We did it in Montmartre. Crystal and I did it, and there was a lot of rain, and they had umbrellas, but at the end of it, the poor things looked, Giuseppe and Crystal looked like a little bit like drowned rats. It was a little bit cold and a little bit wet. So we're gonna head on into the garden. This is where a statue of Buffon was, but he's moved. So we'll talk about that when we see him. But we're gonna head down into the garden. They have the great thing about this, it's lots of people. We're gonna run right into it. The great thing about this garden is it's also, there's also a school near here that uses some of the beds that you can walk through all of them. It's really fascinating. And we're on the hunt. We're on the hunt now for all of those great big beautiful trees. We've got some pink trees and there'll be some big huge white trees. So I think everybody else has the same idea as us today, going in there to check them all out. And one of those darn scooters. Luckily it's moving. Is everywhere where you guys live, are you starting to see the trees blossom? I have out in front of my house, I'll post pictures when it blooms, but we have 2 huge trees that last year they were like just huge balls of cotton candy. It was like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. So I'm patiently waiting. It seems to always bloom a little bit later than everything else, but I'm patiently waiting for it to bloom, and I'll post pictures. I watch people all day from my desk stop and take pictures of it. And then you get a little bit of wind, and then there's just like snowing pink blossoms. It's so gorgeous. But they plant everything under the sun in this garden. And unlike the Luxembourg, which is their gardeners are amazing. And we have some irises. Where the Luxembourg, overnight, they sometimes will completely take everything out of every pot in the ground and replant them. And you'll have one day you'll go in and everything's pink, and the next day everything's, red. Here they don't do that, because it's also, they have all these different beds, and they have all sorts of different, they have a rose garden and the peony garden and the alpine garden and an ecological garden, and they have just everything under the sun. But some of these are so pretty. It's always good. It's always nice to see all the blossoms come back, because then we've made it through the winter. And hopefully this means we've made it through everything else the last year and a half. But the garden itself was set up in 1626. It was the Royal Garden of Medicinal Plants, and it was set up by botanist and Dr. Guy de Brosse under the orders of King Louis XIII. He wanted to take a new approach to, look at those tulips. He wanted to take a new approach to medicine and involving, herbs and plants and everything else. So he really was pushing to have this garden created. I just love those tulips. Those are like big fluffy tulips. Have you seen those tulips that it look like they almost look like peonies? They have so many little layers of petals inside of them. They're so beautiful. But the Royal Garden began as an idea first by Henry IV. He actually was in Italy. He was a big fan of the Renaissance and anything Italy was doing. So he actually had been in Italy, and these gardens had been popping up all over. So he really wanted to have one as well in France. And he wasn't able to get it going. Oh, look at those lilacs. Katie says they smell absolutely amazing, as we could all just imagine. Too bad we don't have scratch and sniff. Scratch the screen. But this was once, this area right here was actually where the little, we could call it the Phantom River now, the Bière would pass through. And this was a huge piece of property. And later on, they had decided that they wanted to create a garden, but they didn't know where to put it. And then it was decided that this was a perfect area to do it. At the time when it opened, it was much smaller. It was not nearly the size that it is today. But it was much smaller. The Faculty of Medicine set up a herb garden here and was overseen by Jean Robin, who is also basically the father of that oldest tree, the oldest living thing in Paris. This looks like the one in my backyard. The oldest living tree in Paris, it's close to Notre Dame, is Shakespeare and Company. He was involved a lot with this garden and getting it set up and everything that they had in it. Later on, Mr. Cardinal Richelieu, who was spearheaded so many different things, and the King's Doctor actually planned and set up the garden right here, and it was decided that they would be created on the site that we know today. Oh, these are now we're getting into the good stuff here. That big pink tree right there. Oh my gosh. Everybody else also loves the big pink tree. Look at that. Don't you wish it could just stay like this all the time? Like just all the time have these trees just big pink and fluffy and just gorgeous. Oh, look, there's people inside. So pretty. Ugh, lovely. But Guy de Labrosse set out to create the garden with thousands of plants. And then he also wanted to add a bunch of architectural elements and different buildings and stuff was the original plan. He didn't get to see a lot of that come through at that point when it was first set up. Oh, look, we're going to go underneath. Luckily, Kate doesn't have any allergies. Look at that. Let's just all sit down underneath there and have a picnic on a sunny day and look at all the pink flowers. Just gorgeous. I think that tree is kind of the showstopper, of course. But Brosse later began teaching at the Collège de France, which was the medical school at the University of Paris, or the University of Paris wasn't very thrilled about this idea, because they had been around and they had been teaching things. And here, all of a sudden, it's kind of like now today with doctors and then versus New Age medicine. It was the same way back then. So later, the garden fell into disrepair. Kind of just people stopped taking care of it. The people that were in charge of it didn't love and care for it like the previous people. And so Jean-Baptiste Colbert stepped in and had the garden combined with the royal buildings. And so that basically at that point, then they had a whole new team of people that were taking care of it. Brosse's nephew was sent to the Alps and the south of France to bring back samples of plants to replace the neglected garden. So the garden was created with plants from all over France and all over, they even brought some stuff. They had some people later bring some stuff from Asia and everywhere else to put into the garden. Look at those. Those are interesting. Anybody know what those are called? But I love how they're all color scheme. Like this one is all like yellows and oranges, and the one we saw before was kind of that really dark pink and purple. This garden in the summer gets even more amazing. But they must have just 100 people that take care of, because this garden is absolutely huge. There's a lot here. In 1718, Georges Louis Leclerc, the Count de Buffon, was put in charge, and he enlarged the garden and created basically everything that we see today. They had taken over the properties that were next to them. You know, they had purchased the carriage house, some of the buildings. So there was a few buildings here, but of course the greenhouses and the stunning building that we'll see at the end. At that time, there was a smaller building there, but they began to create more of what we know today. Straight over there, straight up ahead, where you see kind of all those signs on a fence, that's also part of where a school is, that students come just to study the gardens and the medicinal plants, everything that they have here. Those look kind of like little poppies. So pretty. Do they have we seen any daffodils? The one thing that they don't have in Paris is one of my favorite smells in the world, and always the precursor to spring, is Daphne. I love Daphne. My grandpa also loved Daphne. And you could always, if I go on a walk, which I haven't been able to do because of everything that's happened, but there's a house down the street, and every time I walk past it, you smell the Daphne way before you ever see it. Just like, it's such a strong and amazing smell. But they don't have it in France, because I actually went on a couple dates with a perfume guy, a nose, and he created perfume, and I had told him all about Daphne, and he had kept looking it up and even looking up what it would be in French, and they don't have it there, which is very sad. They're really missing out. Oh, look at this one. Icelandic poppies. Thank you, Terry. Terry is a plant expert. We've got all sorts of names coming in. Thank you, Terry. And we're going to head down, keep looking through the park here. I hope everybody has some great parks with all these plants and flowers that they could go visit. In the meantime, so we're heading down. Now we have the statue of Buffon, who sits here. I guess they wanted him to look at the building instead of greeting people, and they moved him. That must have been quite the feat to move him. But he's now looking over here. He now looks at now he has his back to everybody when they walk in. But this was created in 1908. Buffon was basically, he did more for setting up and creating the garden that we see than anybody else. And so he's kind of the father of the Jardin des Plantes. And now he gets to, we can't get too close to him. They, they frown on walking on the grass in most parks. And this building that we're looking at is a pretty stunning building. It's the Grand Galerie de Evolution, and was designed by Jules André in 1877 and completed in 1889. There was a building that actually was sat in front of it for quite a long time. And then once it finally kind of was falling apart, they tore it down in the 1960s. But this building here inside, this is, if you're going to go, if you had to pick one museum to go to in this entire park, this would be the one to go in and see. It's really, really cool. The outside of it, along the whole, right above, you see in the center where there's a sculpture on the building. On to the left and right of that are medallions of all of the different people that were involved in creating the garden that we see today. So they were all put in there, but inside of it is incredibly cool. It's all animals, and it's all stuffed animals. So real animals, like taxidermy animals, not, you know, fluffy plush animals. But you walk in on the lower level, and it's like going through a safari. There's elephants and giraffes and just every kind of animal you could imagine. And then they actually have like sounds pumping through. So you actually walk by, you know, you walk by the elephants and you could hear them. And it's really, really cool. The building itself, inside and outside, is just gorgeous. They have the upper levels, it's all open to look down below. So you could go up, and there's like little cabinets you can pull out, and there's butterflies and insects and all sorts of things. And then you can look down on top of the animals there. But there's also one really cool thing. And when I get back there, I will do a little video. But there on the right, where you see the door and the opening, you could actually, there is kind of somewhat of a hidden staircase. It's not exactly, you know, completely hidden away, but, you know, they don't really advertise it. And you walk behind where the whale is, and you find this, push this little door open, and you go up, and it's this absolutely beautiful wooden staircase. It has some sculptures on it, and it's kind of like something you would see in Harry Potter. And as you get higher and higher, where that little tiny square window was, you could walk up to there, and you could stand up there, and you could even like set up, you know, bring a little picnic or something and have lunch, and you could open the window and overlook the park. And then you walk even farther up, and there's a little tiny staircase, and it overlooks the king's cabinet. And this was a room that he had specifically for the king, that he would keep his specimens and things that he wanted to see and look at. And it's absolutely, like, it's just the coolest thing. I'll actually, I'll post about it on my Instagram tonight. I'll post some pictures of it, but it's really, really cool. And so you definitely should go check it out. And when I get back there, I'll do a live video from there. These two structures, were built in 1836. And the one on the left holds the history of plants. On the right, it's like a tropical garden. I went into, this one was open when I was there. It's also was like, it was kind of ridiculous. I think it was like 20 euros or something to go inside here. And because it's all tropical plants, it was so humid that you could barely breathe, and you just want to get through as quickly as possible. But it was really, really cool inside. These are two of the oldest greenhouses and structures like this in all of Europe. So it's kind of cool to go see them. That really, really pretty structures with the metal. This was at a time, they were built at a time when metal structures weren't really a thing, of course. There was the Eiffel Tower, but we're actually going to see the oldest metal structure coming up here in all of Europe. Here is that is the statue that Vermeer, you see him working on his little easel. But this is that's the actual statue that he created. It is interesting. A lot of the statues here kind of show nature basically overtaking man. There's this one where, you know, that I think that in that fight, the man is going to lose. I think the bear is probably going to have him for lunch, but there's a couple other ones that we'll see. There's a lion that's out at the exit that we'll walk past, and all you see is a person's foot. So maybe it's in a little way of them showing that, you know, nature, we shouldn't be sometimes messing or pushing nature. And some of those animals, they were here first. But we're going to walk up here up to this really cool little structure. And it's so pretty. You could just walk through here. It's so great to go early in the morning when there's not that many people. And you could walk through with your croissant in your cafe. Somebody was recently telling me how they had come here one time and their kids were little and their kids were um, climbing around under the bushes that are below this what we are going to see, and I just cringed because when I was there and I was walking around it, I kept seeing things scurry underneath in the bushes, and I have a huge issue with those things that scurry. Like, if there was one in my house, I'd just leave with the clothes on my back, and I would just not come back. But they were telling me how they used to go under these bushes, and I was like, "Nope, no way." But we're walking up here. It says there's a labyrinth here that we're about to walk through, and we're going to walk up to the Bouffon Gloriette. And this is, it looks like, what we kind of think of as a gazebo, but it's the top of the labyrinth. It was once this area right here was once a medieval dump. So I'm sure if they did some excavating here, they'd find all sorts of just really interesting things. But it was covered with dirt. And at one point in the 16th century, there was a windmill that stood here. So we're just going to wind around and up. After the death of Buffon, the Gloriette was built and in his honor by the locksmith of the garden, Edme. And it's the oldest metal structure in the world. So it was created in 1763. It's 130 years before the Eiffel Tower that the Grand Dame was created. See, look at, nope, not going under those bushes. Don't do it, Katie. But originally it had at the very top of it, and we could kind of see it. It's part of it is still there, but it originally had a sphere on it that's part of it, they took the mechanism out. You could kind of you see the sphere at the top, but originally that sphere actually had, it had sensors in it, and it was also for the meridian line. So every single day it was set up that there was a horsehair and a magnifying glass. And oh my gosh, you're going to go in there. Oh, okay. I got to close my eyes. There was a horsehair and a magnifying glass, and every single day at noon, the sun would hit it and burn and go through the magnifying glass, setting the horsehair on fire, and then it would end up banging on a drum. And so they would always know every single day that it was noon. This also was along the meridian line that they had at one point. And so now there's quite a few people here. But it was created, this was created and it was made of a bunch of different metals, including gold, lead, bronze, and copper. And it's still, they've just restored it a few years ago. It was closed off for quite a bit of time, but they just restored it quite a long time ago. When I was last here, I came early in the morning and I was the only one up there. But it was quite the place to be when this first opened in the 18th century. It was quite the place to be, and people would come up here and have little clandestine, meetings together, and who knows what else was happening there at night. But it was quite the place to come see and check out because it was something that they had never really seen before. They hadn't seen anything with metal. I love all the top of it. It's so pretty. We might not. Oh, Kate's gonna get on up there. But on it is inscribed, and the translation is, "I only count the happy hours." So I think that is just so perfect. I think that was what we all need to do. Only count the happy hours. And the happy hours is, you could take that two ways. It could be the hours that we're happy, or happy hours sitting on a terrace with a Saint-Germain spritz. We'll have those days again. But you have this lovely little view over some of the rooftops of Paris. Be pretty great to live on these ones that are just opposite, and you could just look at this all the time. How great would that be? I don't see any public displays of affection going on like happened in the 18th century up there. Because everybody has masks on. So also in this garden is, they also have the oldest menagerie in the world as well. So there's all sorts of things in this garden that are first, but they have, there's a zoo here that you could go visit. It is really, I went through one time. It was the first time I ever saw pink flamingos in a zoo. There was just they probably had like 30 of them, and they had quite a few. It's not a huge zoo, but it was originally it was created with a lot of the animals that had been at Versailles in 1793. Louis the 16th, he loved having his animals, and he oh, she's going through. Watch out. Watch out for scurrying things with creepy tails. He actually had quite a few animals. He loved Louis the 16th liked spending more time with the animals in his locks than he did than with his wife. But a lot of those animals came here and to be the basis of the zoo. Delacroix and Barre two artists would come spend a lot of their time here at the zoo, just sketching and watching the animals that they would each use. Barre would do sculptures of animals, and Delacroix, of course, he did quite a few paintings. But they did, you could see now, if you look back at their art, you could definitely see where coming here to look at the animals definitely paid off for them. But sadly, during the siege, when Prussia came in 1870, and basically they were starving, the French people were in Paris were starving. They were eating pigeons and those creatures that I don't like that scurry in the bushes. They were eating everything they could. And sadly, the animals in the zoo were not immune to that. There was even a restaurant. I think we actually walked by where the restaurant was on one of our first walks. But they actually had some of the animals, and they created this delicacy, they said, of a menu that included, antelope and just all of these just gross things. But they actually, most of the animals at the zoo did not survive the siege, and were eaten, sadly. And we have a big lion up there. They did just last year, the garden ended up setting up something so you could actually adopt some of the statues. You could have pay a little bit to help restore a lot of the statues needed to be fixed, and they didn't have enough money for it. So you could actually do an adoption of the statues, and you could adopt that. The lion that we just saw was the one with the eating a foot. And then now we're out on the street. We're in the Latin Quarter. We're in the Fifth. And there's this statue, this fountain that's right here. That's a really interesting fountain. It's the Fontana Georges Cuvier. It was created in 1840. It replaced a fountain that had been there before, dedicated to Saint Victor. And sadly, his statue disappeared. So they created this statue. He was also, Georges Cuvier was a self-taught expert in animal anatomy. And so he, this is very perfectly placed right here next to the garden. He worked there for a short period of time, and then he ended up going on to teach at the many schools. He worked his way up to the Collège de France and to the Sorbonne. But he was a huge influence. The allegory up there at the statue, she's holding a tablet, and on the tablet it says, happy who was able to penetrate the reason of things, from Virgil. But she's standing there. She has a lion next to her. There's an eagle on the other side. But the funny thing about this is there's a crocodile there with his head turned, and a crocodile actually can't physically do that. So the sculpture must have had a little fun, but you could see like the bears and everything else. There's so many animals on there, with the, and then the even lobsters at the base. There's quite a few people out today. The garden actually has quite a few entrances, so it's really great. You could catch it from a bunch of different sides. Over here, just on the wall to the left of us is is the only Wallace, Sir Richard Wallace, of course, created the statues or the fountains that we all know with the caryatides, but he also did a couple other versions. This is the only one left in Paris that is this version. It says here on the wall. Of course, it's in the Verwagon green that they all are in. That's also the same green you'll find on the Boucanis. It's said to be the color green of the cart that took Louis XVI to his death. But this is one of the Richard Wallace, the man that tried to turn wine into water. He created this. It looks like they did some restoration work recently, getting it affixed to the wall. I've never seen the water actually coming out of it, but it's nice that they saved this one. He did a couple different ones. There's also ones that you'll find in the Jardin de Luxembourg that are kind of freestanding, shorter fountains that you could just go up and push a button and get some water. We get to go by today. We're going to go by the home of one of my very favorite people. I know I say I have a lot of favorites, but she definitely is at the top of the list. Can anybody guess who it is? I love her. We'll head down this little street, quiet little street. This street will end up taking you all the way up to Place de Contrescarpe. We're not very far from Rue Cardinal Lamoine, where, of course, Hemingway lived. Oh, look, Amelie's wearing a mask. Did everybody watch the Hemingway documentary? I did a little chat about it the other day. I will put a link to it in my newsletter this week. Saint-Geneviève close. She's kind of close. I was going to say she's close, but the years are quite different. Oh, a bookstore in Paris, my weakness. Except for I just saw a book of Chanel. Yuck. I think we all know how I feel about her. But we're going to head down this little street right here. And this building here on the right is where Rose Valland lived. So, and Rose Valland, of course, was the amazing woman that saved so much art from the Nazis and basically put her life on the line every day. She lived in this building. There's even a little sign there for her. She is just the most amazing. Can't believe she lived till 1980. Now, I just wish that, I, as a very small child, I knew of her and I could have gone to France and found her. But she actually was the one who worked in the Jeu de Paume every single day. And the Germans had no idea that she spoke German, and also had a photographic memory and would hear every single thing they said and keep track of the art that they were stealing from the Jewish, mostly Jewish galleries and Jewish homes. And she would go home here every single night and write in her journals. She would write, 15 different things about each one, the crate they went in, the number they had, where the art was being sent, who it was stolen from, what the art was. You could actually now see all of those things online. The Rose Valland database is amazing. And the database was also used to do a lot of the stuff that the Louvre, they had just put their entire collection online. And the website is, I can't even imagine how long it took them to put this together, but the website is absolutely amazing. It has It even has a provenance of the art and where it came from, and some of the stuff. They also have all of the M&R looted art that basically it's the art that came back to France, and they still haven't been able to find the owners. The Louvre was put in charge of that. You could see a lot of the stuff just hanging in the galleries. You'd always look at the little cards next to it, the little plaques, and it says M&R with a number. And so they actually put at all 1,700 pieces online. I actually discovered this when I was in the hospital, and it literally, it literally made everything better. I was so excited and would spend hours and hours and hours every day on my laptop going through every single piece, making a million notes. But a lot of it, and you'll see Rose's name over and over again. It'll just say from the Rose Valland database. And she just, she ended up returning some 60,000 pieces of art was able to be returned to the families. She deserves a much more than some tiny street up in an outer arrondissement. She deserves a giant statue, like the Statue of Liberty, dedicated to Rose Valland. I'm going to start that. So now we are heading over. Jenny, my friend and one of my wonderful followers, specifically asked one time if we could go here. So I was extremely worried that it was going to be closed, because when I was doing research, it said temporary closed. And then Katie this morning sent me a message saying that she always kind of walks us before we do it, and found that it was open. So we will go head back and we'll head inside and show you. This is the Roman ruins that are here in Paris. They were, it was a former stage amphitheater. It could hold 17,000 people. So when we get inside, you'll see it's pretty cool. And from the outside, you wouldn't even honestly know it's here, because all of the foliage and plants kind of hide everything. But we're going to go head in there. And you could walk right down there. You just I don't know, every time I walk in here, I just envision, what was the movie, Troy? Why can't I think of the name of that actor? Russell Crowe. I just imagine Russell Crowe down here. But it was discovered, it was actually first built in the 1st century, and it was used until the 3rd century, and then just kind of was some of it was destroyed. But in the 5th century, it was a lot of it was rebuilt and used. So it's 17,000 people could sit in here. It seems like, oh, you got some people playing soccer. It seems like there probably was more seating then, maybe over there to the side where there's a upper balcony. But you could, I've come here. Sometimes I've just walked by in the afternoon and sat here. There was one time I came here, there was like a whole school group. They had brought the class here. It's almost like you feel like maybe they'll unleash the lions at any minute here. Watch out for the lions, especially the ones from the garden. They're ticked off from that siege of Paris. They're coming for us, just like the statues. But it was in 1860, while they were opening the Rue Monge, which is right outside of this, they were making it larger. The former arena, this was actually uncovered. On the northern side is what they uncovered first. So that side right there that we're looking at. There's some statues over there. But sometimes you just see little French guy, old men sitting here just with their newspaper and their cigars sometimes, just hanging out here. But it was the man that saved Notre Dame, Victor Hugo, was huge in saving the arena here as well. He basically sent a letter to the council saying that it must be saved, and that he wrote in his letter that he stated that it is living proof that it was a city of the past, and the past brings the future. I think that is basically everything that you could say about France and how they look at these things. And feel that these things are important. It's definitely a big difference to a lot of countries like America, that they find that these things, it's important to save these things, and we could all learn a lot from the past. So it's really cool. I was really afraid that this was going to be closed, but I'm so happy that it is open, and we could walk around. There's quite a few different entrances to this one as well. So you could kind of get it from a few sides. There's a Rue Mange. There's a really a kind of a fancy entrance that you could walk through. I wonder if that was a wisteria. We'll have to come back when it's blooming. But in the 1920s, they used the park for a basketball competition, for a French championship basketball competition. It seems kind of strange that they would use this ancient arena for something like that, but I don't think they would probably do that now. I think now it's more of a historic. Oh, so yeah, so this is the northern side. This is the side that they discovered. Oh, I love those are like little snowballs. I love those little things. They're so cute. They're like tiny hydrangeas. But this was the side where, the fancy elite people, this is the VIP section. This is where you would get, your VIP section to watch over. And they did more stage plays and things here than they did some of the horrible things that they would do in different arenas around Europe. But you have this really pretty the stairs. Definitely need to go check this out when you're there, and it's so close to the garden. We're in the 5th, we're in the Latin Quarter. And so it's not, you could follow these. We're also really close to the school. The gimbal, those gimbals like to get a little bit wacky. There we go. But it's just it's really pretty. It's so pretty. And you just, you wouldn't even know it. That's the great thing about Paris is if you walk by this right here, you would say, oh, that's nice. You would have no idea that there's something beyond it that dates back to the 1st century. And this was kind of, this is when Paris was mostly just on the island, Ile de la Cité. And then they started to stretch over to this side a little bit more. And they were, there was a couple, actually, there was a few of these actually in Paris. This is the only one that still remains that they uncovered. But who knows? They could uncover more. Last week, we took you to the remains of the Bastille that they also uncovered when they did, we're building the Metro Line 1. They found that. I think in recent years, then they find something under a Monoprix. I think they found some skeletal remains and a bunch of other things under a Monoprix. So when you're dealing with a country this old, who knows what other things we'll uncover. Oh, we have some more pink trees. I haven't been up this little path. This is exciting. Maybe just a higher view. Oh, this guy's just sitting here trying to enjoy his morning, having a quiet little look. And here we come. But yeah, you can see kind of the whole size of it, how big it was. But that kind of where that building is, it has no windows, very plain. It just has that square there at the bottom. That's another entrance that you could go in and out. That's kind of the main entrance on Rue Mange. There's lots of people out and playing football. My mom just recently, I was watching Paris Saint-Germain the other day, and she said, is this soccer or football? I said, it's football. I don't know why they call American football when you don't even, it's nothing to do with your foot. These are things I wonder. But now we've seen lots of garden today, lots of the blossoms. Unfortunately, we wish it would have been sunny, but I'm very happy it wasn't raining. And so we could share it all with you guys. I think I'm trying to decide on next weekend's walk. I think in 2 weeks we're going to go to one of my favorite areas because it'll be the day before my birthday. So I'm picking one of my very favorite places. That one I don't think is very hard for people to figure out, but we're going to head over there. But I think next weekend I was thinking maybe we would head over towards where the Petit Palais and the Grand Palais and the beautiful Pont Alexander Trois and Les Invalides. I thought maybe we head over that direction because we haven't done much over there yet. So, but if there's ever things you guys want to see, any ideas that you have, let us know. I know Dawn and Carol always have, they always have wonderful ideas that they let me know. And Jenny was the one who said, have you ever, let's go over to the arena. So I was like, we are on it. I was kind of waiting so the blossoms would be going at the Jardin. Katie's taking us on all these great little paths. Even higher. So wonderful. But we will leave you guys here at the arena and hope you all have a wonderful Sunday. If you guys have any questions or if you want to let us know of anything you want to see, unmute yourself and chime in and I'll jot down some notes. And we'll take you to some more wonderful little places in Paris. We still love to do it, come rain or shine, hopefully more shine. But I'm really happy that I could be back and bringing you more Paris. Today, actually, in an hour, I will be doing another video, and it's just going to be it's just going to be a Zoom chat with lots of photos. I'm going to actually be doing the ladies of the Luxembourg, which at the Jardin de Luxembourg, there's the 20 different statues of the illustrious women in French history that go around the upper terrace. And each one of them has a pretty fascinating story. Some of them you know, Saint Geneviève or Marie de Medici, you may know, but some of the other names you might not have ever heard of. So they all have really interesting stories. And so that one I will be doing in 1 hour at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And there it is on my Bleu Blanc Rouge Facebook group. And you could sign up for it there. But it's really interesting. You might find some characters that might send you back down a rabbit hole to discover. I think we have 2 gals down there just below the fence, maybe making a TikTok video, doing some dancing, having a good time. But that I'd love to see everybody, see lots of people at that too, if you want to hear me blabber on again about more Paris. So, but thank you so much, Kate, for your wonderful work today. She's so lucky that she got to smell all those flowers and those lilacs.
Thanks, Claudine. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And I'm so glad we didn't have any rain today too. But thank you guys, and thank you so much. And we will see you next Sunday if I don't see you in an hour. And we look forward to seeing you then. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Kate.